The Northern Ireland Secretary, Brandon Lewis, has just been giving me his take on the political impasse in Northern Ireland. Are you satisfied with what he told me and the way he's handling it?
Well, no, there's been a really tough lead up to the challenges in Northern Ireland. There was 2 years ago, there was a deal that was negotiated by Brandon's predecessor, which put forward a raft of different measures which needed legislation in Westminster. None of it has been legislated for. So some of the key things are cultural packages, which would have introduced languages, measures to deal with the legacy issues of the violence in Northern Ireland. All of these have been bungled and mismanaged in the years since that, and none of it's been introduced. So that's destabilised the system, the politics of Northern Ireland. And then put into the middle of that, of course, is a Prime Minister that goes to Northern Ireland, makes an absolute solemn promise there'll be no border down the Irish Sea, and there has no intention of honouring that promise, and in fact breaks it straight away. And this has put a division right down, a schism right down Northern Ireland at a time when politics is already fragile. So the Good Friday Agreement is under huge pressure at the moment because we have a government that doesn't represent all of Northern Ireland. It only represents part of the politics of Northern Ireland. We have a Northern Ireland secretary who doesn't really engage right across all of the communities in Northern Ireland. And unfortunately, when the Stormont collapsed, Brandon Lewis gets on a plane to Washington. He doesn't get on a plane to Belfast, where he's needed to bring people together and start to hammer out a deal that will get Stormont up and running again. So I am afraid that this is a government who has played fast and loose with the Good Friday Agreement and all of the measures which has delivered peace, stability and economic growth in Northern Ireland. And that's a real worry.
So to be clear, you are saying that the decision by the Unionists to withdraw their leader from the First Minister's post and the essential paralysis of that government is really Boris Johnson and Brandon Lewis's fault. It's not really anything to do with the Northern Ireland parties.
All political leaders, all politicians must accept responsibility for their own actions. And I'm saying that the DUP themselves have been very explicit about that. They're not, always blaming others. But there is a key thing here. If you look at what the DUP have said, and you look at what the leader, Jeffrey Donaldson, has said, it is very, very clear when you look at the world through their eyes, they have had a set of bargains with the Tory party and with Boris Johnson. And every one of the promises that have been made by Boris Johnson has been broken. They have been lied to repeatedly by Boris Johnson. And then we find out just last week when Jeffrey Donaldson said the Prime Minister has told him that the protocol negotiations that are currently underway only have a 30% possibility of success. This is what the Prime Minister is saying privately.
Mr. Kyle,
there is no plan B.
I just want to get clear, though,
by government as to what that would lead to. This is the kind of thing that is going on behind the scenes, and it is no wonder that is destabilising Northern Ireland.
OK, I just want to get clear that basically you're attributing really the problems here to the government in Westminster and not really anything to do with Stormont. If Labour were in power, what would you do to resolve this? Let's not go back at what you might not have done and all of that, but what would you be doing tomorrow to resolve this?
Well, not tomorrow. I'd be there today. I wouldn't have gone to the US. Whenever. I would have cancelled that US trip and I would have been there from the very moment that things became unstable.
You're going back and telling me what you would not have done. Just tell me what you would have done. What would you do now?
That's what I'm saying. I would be there and I wouldn't have left. If I was Secretary of State, I wouldn't have left.
What would you do now?
Get people around the table, figure out some of the challenges and get things onto the record. There have been promises made about the protocol, for example. I think the government have played fast and loose with its words about the protocol. It's clear they don't think the negotiations are going to succeed. They have no plan B in place. And if they do trigger Article 16, it will have implications right the way across the whole of the UK economy, not just impact in limited ways, as it is currently, the Northern Ireland economy.
But
all
Kyle,
of these things, there's been double speak from the government. There will be no double speak from the Labour Party, and we will return to the principle of the Labour Party being the honest broker that Northern Ireland needs.
But Mr. Kyle, Sir Jeffrey Donaldson spoke to us last week, and the problem was that he he said some things about the government. He said the government could pay more attention. But essentially, his objection was to the way that the protocol operates. What would you do differently about the protocol than what...
with the protocol, we have been very clear.
Not how would you get people around the table, but what would you actually do? What would you put to the EU to solve the problem of the objection to the way it operates right now?
So the protocol has to evolve. The Labour Party has said that. But the way to make the protocol evolve is actually to have functional relationships with the EU. At the moment, they are dysfunctional. Liz Truss is still making the mistake that David Frost made by negotiating via op-ed in the Telegraph with the EU. They are not coming to any clear arrangements. We need a deal on veterinary services. That should be negotiable because actually both sides have a very clear landing zone for that. And we need to move on into the future to some more consumer products. I think we all know where this is going. The problem is that it's not acceptable to a small faction in the Tory party that have Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, to ransom right now, including Liz Truss, who's playing to them because of her own leadership ambitions. The Labour Party will incrementally and in a solid way move forward, adding on to the deal, improving the deal, and showing that each aspect of the new deal will work over time to build the trust with the EU. At the moment, the government is not acting in good faith, and it hasn't acted in good faith. It has delivered a deal that it's trying to distance itself from. This is the deal Boris Johnson negotiated. It is his deal. He didn't even read it before signing it.
Thank you. OK, could we move on to an area where the government is not responsible, where we can talk about where Labour is actually in charge and talk about what Labour does? And I want to talk about policing. You used to be Shadow Justice Minister. Was the Mayor of London right to withdraw his confidence from the Met Police Commissioner?
Well, there's a lot of discussion around our country at the moment about people at the top of organisations accepting responsibility and what that actually means. So, yes, unfortunately, it got to the point where Cressida Dick had to accept responsibility for all of the ongoing revelations and inaction with reform in the police. And Sadiq Khan clearly got to the point where he decided that she needed to leave. And actually, that was what accepting responsibility for the person at the top meant. I just wish that Boris Johnson would do the same in the way that he has mismanaged our country and broken the rules. I'm not saying Cressida Dick has broken the rules, but she has failed to implement the changes that have been needed over time.
It would be great. We do spend quite a lot of time saying the words Boris Johnson in this programme. It would be great if we talked about somebody else. But sticking with the issue of the Met, the Mayor supported her reappointment just a few months ago. What changed?
Well, there's just more.
Because most of the events that he's quoted happened before that.
Down over time. So if you look at the revelations that came out of the Charing Cross police station, the independent report revealed extreme misogyny and other issues there. Not just sexism, not the sort of thing that people can put down to a way of interpreting the behaviour there. There was extreme misogyny. Now that's a new revelation on top of all of the different revelations which have come out from Sarah Everard and beyond. The public need change. They need to know that change actually is taking place. So I'm afraid that this has been ongoing. This has been ongoing for too long. And the public are just starting to wonder. Now, there was a poll that's just come out recently where now only 43% of the public believe that the police are able to tackle crime in the right way. This is the first time we've had these kind of low figures before. People are losing confidence, not just in the police, but the people who are managing the police in the Home Office and the Home Secretary herself. So something has to change. And unfortunately, that has to start at the top. And we need a new approach. It is really sad because I know firsthand just how dedicated the vast majority of police are and the incredible job that police do. There are a lot of women police officers who feel very strongly about the issues that are going on themselves. This isn't just, people outside the police force complaining about the people inside the police force. There are people inside the police who are desperate for change and reform that the public need and the police need. Those people need to be empowered. Yvette Cooper today is releasing a 5-point plan to do so, which starts with putting women and violence against women and girls as a priority for the Home Office, which needs to be a priority for the police force in terms of reform going forward, but also looking at all of the other measures which need to be proactively changed in the police force, inclooing whistleblowing, including use of social media.
Forgive me, can I interrupt you just for sorry to interrupt you, but before we have that much time left, before we move on, I would like to give you the chance to say something about the situation in Ukraine. Sir Keir Starmer made a well-publicised visit to NATO headquarters this week, obviously, I think, to reinforce the view that Labour supports NATO. Now, Brandon Lewis has just been telling me that the government will be introducing fresh legislation that will allow the government to confiscate the assets of Putin's friends. But as I said to him, the government's talked tough on this before. Do you think this time that there will be an effective regime put in place? And what would that look like for Labour?
I have absolutely no confidence that the government are equipped to deal with this, simply because when you look at all of the taxation reforms that they have made to date, they're doing so not in the interests of the British economy. They're doing it in the interests of the people who donate money to the Tory party, and that includes a lot of Russian people. We're not going to get the kind of reforms that we need. What we need to do is have a new set of transparency laws. We need to know, for example, who is owning property, particularly in London, and very expensive property, because at the moment there are all sorts of very easy ways that people, oligarchs and people with lots of Russian money who are laundering money via the property market are doing so and are able to hide it. We need to reform the law so that property is transparent. Secondly, Companies House. There are a lot of people who are setting up very dodgy companies in this country, and Companies House enables Russians to hide who are the ultimate owners of these companies, who are investing money in our country, who are seeping money into our economy. We need transparency from that as well. So that needs reform at Companies House. And then on top of that, we need to make sure
Mr.
that
Lammy told me that last week
transparent.
about transparency, and got that point. But just as a last question, really, once you know, and Labour has already named some of the people that you're referring to, what would you do about them? Would you confiscate their properties? Would you freeze their bank accounts? What would you do?
Well, we already have, because Labour passed the unexplained wealth orders. Labour Party, brought this legislation in, but this government doesn't use them. So we do already have the powers. If people don't have explained wealth, or we believe that the origins of wealth are coming from criminal activity, or they don't belong in our country. The powers are there, they're just not used. So if the law needs updating, then of course the Labour Party supports that. Margaret Hodge has had a almost lifelong career in politics, trying to clear up the dodgy money that's coming into our economy. The Magnitsky Acts came via
sanctions, yes.
Margaret Hodge, and the Labour Party sort of has implemented and supported those acts. We need to find the source of this money, and then we need to act upon it.